The corruption in trucking we've been talking about didn't suddenly just appear. It didn't magically show up the day a secretary finally cracked open a filing cabinet in D.C. No, this rot has been building for decades while truckers like you and me have been screaming into the wind that the system was rigged, that licensing was broken, that oversight was failing, and that fraud was running wild in places nobody wanted to look. It's not new. In Washington, they turned a blind eye. Across multiple administrations, across both parties, there is more than enough blame to go around here. So let's ask the question they hoped no truck driver would ask. How did you get away with this for so damn long? How? Because here's the hard factual truth most Americans don't know and most truck drivers don't know. I've been advocating for 25 years, so I know this is factual and it's firsthand, and I'll quote the sources. The same people have sat in these oversight seats for decades. Not months, not a couple years, decades. This wasn't a shuffle. This wasn't a revolving door. The same long-term members sat in the same oversight positions while trucking oversight collapsed. The House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee? Sam Graves, since 2001. Rick Larson, since 2001. Eleanor Holmes Norton, since 1991. And in the Senate Commerce Committee, Transportation Oversight, Maria Cantwell, since 2001. Roger Wicker, Congress since 1995. John Thune, Commerce Committee since 2007. And Ed Markey, Congress since 1977. And add this name because it matters now more than ever. In the whole picture, Senator Ted Cruz, since 2013, now chairman of the Senate Commerce Committee. This is the same committee responsible for FMCSA, DOT, CDL regulation, non-domiciled licensing oversight, training, state compliance, transportation safety. And during Cruz's time in office, his home state of Texas became a documented center of CDL exam fraud, DPS employees falsifying tests, 50,000 plus non-domiciled CDLs issued, FMCSA declaring Texas not consistent with federal rules. Texas DPS halting all non-domiciled CDL issuance under scrutiny. A fatal crash that was tied directly to a misissued Texas CDL. Every one of those failures unfolded while Cruz was in federal office. And he now chairs the committee responsible for fixing the oversight that failed. Keep in mind, folks, I'm an independent. I don't have sides here. That's why I'm saying they're all guilty. And what I just told you are facts. And now listen close, because this is for every American watching. Some people might ask, I'm sure they will, Charlie, why call out these specific lawmakers? Aren't there lots of long-serving members of Congress? Aren't there? Yes, there are. But here's the truth. Oversight of trucking does not belong to all of Congress. It belongs to these committees. Not every long-term politician has anything to do with transportation. Some oversee banking. Some oversee foreign affairs. Some oversee agriculture. You get the point. But this handful, these members, are the ones who hold the oversight seats for trucking. For highways, the FMCSA, the DOT, safety, licensing, and the rules that govern the lives of 3.5 million drivers. Oversight wasn't everyone's responsibility, but it was their responsibility, and they failed. They were in the room. They had the reports. They received the warnings. They controlled the hearings. They had the authority to act. And they didn't. That is the systematic failure. And this failure doesn't just hurt truckers. It hurts every American and every American family. Let me make this plain. Trucking is a $1 trillion a year industry. That's trillion with a T. We move 72% of America's freight. Everything in this country relies on a truck. Food, fuel, medicine, consumer goods, manufacturing, construction, military supply, you name it. If you got it, a truck brought it. So when oversight collapses in trucking, it devastates grocery bills, fuel prices, inflation, supply chain reliability, delivery times, small business costs, roadway safety, national economic stability. Oversight failure in trucking is not a trucking problem. It's a national problem with national consequences. And the American people are the ones paying the price. Right now, today, and you have been for 4 decades. Federal investigators have documented CDL fraud rings, non-domiciled licensing violations, training school corruption, state-level licensing errors, fatal crashes tied to improper CDLs, multiple indictments of state employees, decades of enforcement gaps, FMCSA flagging multiple states for non-compliance, tens of thousands of questionable credentials, all while the same long-term lawmakers sat in the same oversight seats with the same power to act. So again, let's ask the question. America deserves an answer. The industry deserves an answer. Where were they when this was brewing? Where were the hearings? Where was the accountability? Where was the pressure on FMCSA? Where was the intervention when Texas was issuing faulty CDLs, when California was issuing faulty CDLs, when all these states were committing the corruption they were committing? Where was the action when fraud prosecutions started rolling in? Where was the oversight of $1 trillion American industry? Whose failures hit every American and every American household? You can sit in these seats for 10, 20, 30 years and pretend you didn't know? Pretend you didn't know for 30 years. So either they didn't know, which means they weren't doing their job, or did know and chose not to act. Neither option is acceptable. Not for truckers, not for the American people. Not for the nation. This industry keeps this country alive. Drivers warned them for decades. Not yesterday, not last month. Inspector generals warned them. Crash data warned them. Federal prosecutors warned them. And whistleblowers warned them. But Congress, same faces, same chairs, same committees, did not act. Now the truth is out. Now the fraud is exposed. Now the failures are undeniable. Now the American people can see exactly who was responsible for watching the store while it was being looted. And the biggest question left on the table is this. Where were they when this was brewing? Where were they? Why did oversight collapse in a $1 trillion industry? And why did America have to pay the price? And believe me, they did. This isn't politics. This is accountability. Long overdue accountability. Unavoidable and undeniable.